Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
It's time.
Yes.
Let's get sciencey. Today is our 1 year anniversary. We have been doing this for 1 year. Thank you. So next month we're going to have Carol Lundy, who is the owner and operator of the Chronos, which is a natural history education and consulting service right here in Cincinnati. She's going to be discussing on June 21st, okay, right here, a wildlife comedy review. She says that while this collection of hilarious stories was not funny at the time, now it's pretty funny, and it will give you a very good up-close view of some of our amazing animals. But of course, right now, tonight, we have wetland, what is it? Wetland ecosystems with Brandon and Reality. Please take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you, CJ. My name is Dr. Alex Kuschak, and I'll be presenting with Renee. We'll start a bit later. Yeah, it's going to be about wetland ecosystems a bit, so that'll be more of the science part. And then the reality of it is we're with the Forest Avenue Wetland Park Renewal Project. So we'll be discussing the different invasives that we've been finding, our progress and experiences in renewing the park. Yeah. So to start, just what are wetlands besides it's wet and unwet? So I'll have two different definitions here. This first one is more really just about the water aspect of it. So areas of marsh, fen, deep underwater, whether natural, artificial, permanent, or temporary, with water that is static flowing, fresh tracks of salt, including areas of marine water, not more than 6 meters deep. So yeah, all about the water. Pretty much covers everything with water there. And that's from the Ramsar Convention of Wetlands. But then a more biological way to think about it is how it's defined by the United States Clean Water Act, and it focuses more on the life that's found there, and specifically the plant life. So it's areas that are inundated or saturated by surface or groundwater at a frequency or duration sufficient to support the prevalence of vegetation typically adapted for life in saturated soil conditions. I just mentioned kind of the same places in the first one. So there's two different ways to think about wetlands. So it's not just areas that get really wet, it's more about staying wet a sufficiently long time for the life there to be wet adapted. So I'm going to go over a couple different types of wetlands. So it's kind of one main way to divide it is its movement. So the first one here is lotic system. The other one is lentic. Lotic, I always remember it just has the O, almost like flow. So it's flowing water. So rivers, streams, and creeks. And now just a few facts about it. It's just like the water goes through really quickly. It can cycle through, especially really big rivers like the Ohio River right here. That's moving a whole heck ton of water all the time, and even if it doesn't look fast to your eye, it is actually really quite quick. And even just a slow meandering creek, that's still just moving a lot of water all the time, just keeping everything in that area with fresh nutrients, fresh oxygen in water constantly. And as I was saying, nutrients, that's another part of it, is that lotic systems have a lot of nutrients or then pollutants running through it. So the first part there, nutrients, I immediately think of I spent quite a few years down in southern Louisiana grad school. So I think of the Mississippi River Delta. So you can see in that picture, it's a saltwater marsh. So all of this water has been flowing down, bringing all the nutrients from 2/3 of the continental U.S. Just down into this one area. So it just is creating all of this great nutrient-rich water and lots of sediment. Basically, some land growth in a few areas. It's a lot of land lost now. impact on it, but naturally it would be creating a lot of land and it's a very productive system. And then the last just interesting fact about these flowing systems is that they move over time quite a bit. So to show you that, here's a picture of the Mississippi River over time. So this is over a few thousand years, just the different courses that the river has taken. It can be different geological events to alter its course, or just over time there's lots of erosion. Like a lot of times, or like almost all the static water bodies in the world are up north or down really far south. And there's a lot of glaciers. Glaciers take stuff away, so that's where a lot of lakes are. So in a lot of tropical areas, like down in southern Louisiana, Mississippi, one of the only ways to get water bodies like a lake is through oxbow bends and rivers. So sometimes there's even one that's False River Lake down in Louisiana, like those really sharp curves. They kind of get pinched off by the river, and then you just have a very long U-shaped lake. So the second type is a lentic system, and these are stagnant bodies of water. So lakes and ponds, sometimes marshes, if not. Marshes could be either or, it depends on how much the water is moving through it. And yeah, these are areas where the water can become stagnant. So that happens a lot when the water becomes stratified, and this is really prevalent in big bodies of water like the Great Lakes. So to show you what I mean, this is a diagram representing what's known as a dimictic lake. So the mictic means mixing, and di, so twice a year it mixes. Most lakes, just because they'll be like in the northern hemisphere, will be dimictic because they will the water within a lake will fully mix, like in the spring and fall. But in the summer, down in deeper levels, the water is going to be really cold and just won't mix with that surface water that's absorbed all that heat. So what will happen especially the summer, is that you can get these dead zones at the bottom of the lake because there will be so much productivity at the surface that organic matter will sink to the bottom, that bacteria will degrade it because there's not a lot of fresh water coming into that bottom. It becomes deoxygenated, so there can be large areas where there's not a lot of life that can be in a big body of water. Most of the life you think of, fishes and everything, are in that small upper layer known as the epithelium. That's just where there's a lot of oxygen and for everything else. But as I was saying, when it's stratified, there's no mixing, so that oxygen for bottom part of the lake will have a lot of nutrients that won't be used up by everything else. So it's good that it mixes at least twice a year, because that's when a lot of nutrients will get back into the top surface, which will just continue to try to work. Little organisms growing and big bigger ones. Yeah, this can lead to just dead zones, which has become a bigger and bigger problem over the years. Algae blooms, which has also become a bigger problem. And so now that I mentioned there's a couple types, so some reasons why wetlands are rather important. So the first one, a big one, is that they just slow the flow of water. And what I was thinking about earlier, why this is so important, really for humans, it's important when it comes to flooding. And similar to when COVID was much bigger, we want to flatten the curve. So the peak of this curve is just like the height of river water or something. And having these wetlands, especially with marshes, will act as a sponge. So it can store a lot of water, and that will be released much slower over time. So you don't have a nearly as devastating or impactful as an event. So it's one way they help. Another is that they also are great at filtering different pollutants. So quite a few different wastewater treatment plants or industrial facilities will have these wetlands nearby that are used to filter their outflow. Because the water is going through much slower, it gives time for a lot more bacterial degradation and a lot more time for it to react with oxygen, which is very reactive, so it helps break down a lot of compounds. Further down. Second is that wetlands are just habitats for a lot of different species that don't find in the rest of the terrestrial habitat because of all the water. And for us, a lot of the foods that we enjoy rely on these wetlands for part of their life or quite a bit of it. So since I spent so long in Louisiana, I instantly think of crawfish. Their whole life is dependent on the wetland, which in one of our recent days of doing some work at the wetlands, we even found some crawfish mounds here not healthy. That's cool. So a lot of the species that do use these habitats, as I said, they need all this water, so they're very restricted to these habitats, but there is one species that kind of makes their own wetland, and that is the beaver. So we all know that they will dam up a small stream and just create these wetlands, but it's really cool because even after they leave and their dam leaves, that wetland will go through this whole life cycle of over decades to up to a century of no longer a wetland, it'll become a meadow, it'll become a very lush forest. So the areas, even after they leave and it can no longer be a wetland, it's still a different ecosystem than would have been there, which is pretty cool. So they are important, but it doesn't mean we really like them. It's true. They're like a lot of these wetlands, they're so many bugs, really muddy, and we don't enjoy that. And especially in Ohio, this is one of the worst states for having destroyed our wetlands. Over 90% of the wetlands have been destroyed or heavily degraded since the late 18th century. So in this map, the green is forested, yellow is agriculture, so yeah, great farmland here, and then this red is industrial. Somewhere there's wetlands, but it's obviously a very tiny portion. But it didn't always used to be like that. There was once the Great Black Swamp. That was almost completely in Ohio. It was kind of where Toledo is. It was, when it was around, it was one of the largest swamps in the country. It was, as I said, we don't really like it. There was endemic malaria here, even. So it's hard to blame people for wanting to get rid of it, because it did turn into amazing farmland. As we saw, especially in the northwest corner, great farmland in Ohio, a lot of yellow, which also kind of leads to my next slide here. All that great farmland. It's just that wetland is highly altered now. So where it used to be all of that marshland leading into there, like filtering all that water, as I said, it can filter pollutants and everything. Well, that is not anymore. That water is traveling really quickly from these farms now, where they just have these great drainage ditches into a lot of controlled drainage areas into these rivers. So it's not going slow. It's just all of that nutrients from the farms has been going into the lake. So first, you can see those two pictures, one above the other. That's from 2011. The top one is before the algae bloom. The bottom one is while it was happening. That was at the time the big algae bloom that happened on one of the Great Lakes. But then this one was worse. On this other side, that's from the 2014 Toledo water crisis. So that was just a few months after I moved away from Toledo. Like my friends were saying, oh yeah, we can't like shower with the water. You can't use it for anything because of all the algae that was in the water. It could release toxins. I think it was microcystin, which is actually what I have been doing some toxicity tests for EPA for it. But this is just a picture of the water looked like, just scooping it up from that was the inflow for where Toledo got its water. That's real bad. That's bad algae. It's just particularly bad in that end of Ohio, or that end of Lake Erie, because the water doesn't mix as much there, but it does get quite warm, so it leads to a lot of algae growth at the top there. Yeah, and Renee will talk about the invasives we've been finding and just our process so far with trying to restore local parks.
Thank you. Alright, so Alex said, my name is Renee. I am working on the forest wetland project. It's right over here in Mount Horsley. So some things that we have found in our wetlands are invasive species in Ohio. So in Ohio, there's about 2,300 plant species that are growing in the wild, right? And about 78% of those are native. So not bad compared to other places. But that means there are about 500 invasive species in Ohio. And they take over quickly, and they are very aggressive. So why invasives are a problem? So we want a diverse and healthy ecosystem. We want a lot of different plants. We want a lot of different animals. And luckily, nature is so integrated, and your native plants, your native animals have evolved together to be a very nice, healthy ecosystem. And these native plants then help with soil stability. They help with food and shelter for wildlife. Plants grow, so on, so forth. All that is part of the cycle. And so these invasive plants will come and disrupt all those cycles. They will take over. Like you see the picture here, this is kudzu. Takes over the entire eastern half of the United States now. I'm sure that y'all have been down the south, you're driving around the highway, you just see vines everywhere. That is all kudzu. So where are they coming from? A big one is ornamental use. That's pretty. We like them in our yard. So example, we have honeysuckle, which is what we focus on. Which, as you can see here, it is pretty. It smells nice. It is, I guess. Another big one is the calorie plant. So if you're driving along the highway and you see all those trees with nice little flowers on, those are all calorie pears. They were just in a sterile hybrid. Another big one is erosion control. So this is where the kudzu vine originally came from. They were clear cut forests, and so they planted kudzu to protect that erosion. And then another big one is accidental introduction. So, if y'all get it, zebra mussels. They just so happen to be on the hull of a boat. Check out the filling, and then it's just in there. So simple stuff as that, does not mean to, not on purpose. Asian carp is another one. It started in the south with some flooding from agricultural fields, or agricultural ponds, and they accidentally got into the water system. And then you also have introductions through medicinal and culinary use, as well as like wildlife food. So some of the invasives that we have found in our park, so we have the lesser salidine, as well as the creeper. So these are your on-the-ground plants, which, yes, the most pretty little flowers look nice, but they are taking over the entire forest floor. So we don't have any native wildflowers. We don't have the mayapple to top it up, that you normally see in the Ohio forest. You then have some understory plants. So honeysuckle is a big one. If you have been to any of the parks anywhere, you will see the trees and then a very strong line of honeysuckle. it stops at 12 feet and everything below it. It will crowd out anything and everything. And so it prevents other understory trees like redbud and box elder from growing. It takes over, it takes away all the sunshine, it takes away all the heat. And then we also have our overstory plants. So these are calorie pairs, as you can see here. And then, particularly in our wetlands, we have a invasive species of cattail also. That will take over the water country that we have. So, now that we have this, how do we fix it? How do we restore the balance? So the first one is identifying your native problem. So this is a picture of the forest wetland park, and then all of that you see there, that is all honeysuckle. And that is after like 2 removals. So it used to be lower. It used to be absolutely full of it. So we've identified our problem children. Alright, now what do we do? So we are planning and organizing how to remove it. So we, in this park specifically, we have not only removed stuff, we just made it pictures. So we put in new benches. Our project manager, Erin, did a very good job with some beautiful benches. So those benches enjoy them. It's lovely there. You can hear the birds. And then also connecting with like-minded individuals, like all you lovely people who love science. So we have a We Thrive group in Mount Horsley that has been a big help, and then we also have the Tree Council that have been in Massive Public determining which trees to take down, and also what trees to replace them, because we don't want to just rip out the individuals. We also want to plant new, pretty native ones to help replace them. Which actually you see over here on the left, that's Tom. He is our arborist. He is very, very knowledgeable, and he is teaching us all kinds of things about how we're removing native as well as removing invasive as well as and so through this planning, we have been arranging events to begin with. So we have a lot of volunteers who have done a lovely job coming in. We've had about 4 of them so far, where we've removed a whole bunch of honeysuckle. I think we're about like an acre and a half of honeysuckle removed, as well as planting plants. So 2 weeks ago, we planted about 14 native trees, where we removed our honeysuckle, which is very nice. And then we have actually done the work of submitting money for grants. So we have gotten 1 grant so far, and we have our eye on 2 more to buy tools, as well as to buy native grants, and so now we've planned and we've organized. We found our friends to help us break down trees. We're getting the word out. So we have Facebook pages to talk about the park and that you can connect with us. We have also had a couple interviews. WBSU, our local NPR station, interviewed us. And you can hear all about that. It's lovely. And then we've also had an article from Spectrum News, again talking about the park and talking about how important wetlands are. How much we realize we can't bring them back to their former glory, but we can do our absolute best. So the next thing we have is removal. So we want to remove those invasives, and the time of year is important. You want to do them, so in terms of honeysuckle, we prefer to do it in the winter, because the honeysuckle will stay green for a long time, which means easy identification. So we're working out something they're not cold. In addition, it's cold. So if we chop them down, and we want to chop them at the root ball, they will be less likely to survive that cold, right? That negative 35 degree weather we all got. And very simple tools, shovels, loppers, some chainsaws. That's about all we need. We're going to pile them all up. So this picture right here is from our first big removal. That was a lot of wood. That basically we have now remember that this is a forever project. Not only this project, but any project that's been living in this room. It is a forever project. So honeysuckle makes berries, everyone makes berries, then the birds make berries, and so on and so forth. So it is a forever project, but it is an important project. We want to preserve those native species. We also want to preserve the area that you're trying to grow our park. Yeah, it's a long process. But one of the biggest challenges we face is there's so dirty and people love how pretty they are. They are so nice and people adore them. Even if it is in their front yard, they think it'll stay in the front yard. And as far as any questions, comments, concerns? Yes. It is, yes. Bamboo is also very invasive, and it is still. Yes, yeah, that is another one.
And again, you have to like put the perennial walls or wall
I've never removed it, but also what I've heard is you basically have to chop it down and then just treat it with Roundup. That's what we've had to do with this honeysuckle. We'll chop it at the root ball and then like very, very carefully put the Roundup around it. That's the only way. Yeah, and I'm sure bamboo is. Yeah. So, about that honeysuckle. Yeah. We have a lot of it because thankfully a neighbor of ours decided to plant it. Yes. And that's usually how, yes, that's usually how it goes. Everywhere. So, Mom and I are, muscle men. We can't dig this stuff up, so we're cutting it down at the ground level. I was almost thinking about raping it or something. I mean, is there something I can do that isn't going to be lethal to dogs? I rescue dogs, but I rescue dogs. Yeah. Like phosphorus, so like they're gonna do whatever the heck they're gonna do. I can't train them, every day that they come. So it's something that's really gonna be safe for dogs. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking, like spray paint or tar or something I could put on the roof that will. Yeah. Maybe a short amount of time. But we're talking like overnight. Yeah, overnight.
Well, I can get that done. I am a toxicologist,
I would appreciate it so much.
I was thinking of half like.
God, I'm so tired of cutting it down every year. Yeah. But, and of course, if you cut it down and you don't treat it, it just doesn't. It's good. It just gets angry. But we hate it, so we cut it down. Yeah.
And then we keep hitting it down.
It's kind of about talking about the restoration of our wetlands.
Well, could you hit it? You get the root ball, you hit the top of the buckthorn blaster, just so you can get the Roundup right on the thing, and then cover it with like plastic. Tack down plastic garbage bag, because that'll also. And I mean, granted.
Some of the dogs are so stupid. They're gonna be
right, but it's going to give you some time to know that they're not going to go right for it. They're not going to be licking it.
That's a good point.
If you can find it real carefully, right? Just with Eric, I was looking up a bunch about that. It will readily bond to a lot of particles in the soil, so it wants to shoot like you after
and we're not saying like spray, like it's a very careful application. I know, it's just so everywhere that it's impossible to monitor every place that it is. So we recommend chopping it at the very base of the tree. Yeah, and then just very careful and
on the outer edge.
on the outer edge and like literally just right here. Just on the outer edge.
Yeah, that's where all the growth is.
Okay. Yeah, and then you can, like we said, cover it with a plastic tarp. That's a good way that way your dogs will get that would be a
Look up buckthorn blaster. It's basically a little applicator that's got a tip that the Roundup just kind of flows through. It's not a spray, so you can just run it around the space, and it's not dripping. It's not going everywhere.
Aaron bought a what was it? Bingo stamper.
Yes, it's the same. It's the same thing.
Totally, that's what it. Bingo stamper. And you just spin it around.
And you can put dye in it, so you can see where you've been.
Okay.
It's really helpful.
Yeah, but unfortunately for something like that, Thank you.
English ivy, is that also somebody to know? And of course, the Roundup is only one of the roses.
English actually might actually be able to rip it up because it's a lot easier than like a honeysuckle bush. But
It'll take a few tries.
it'll take a while. I'm not gonna lie. Unfortunately. Yeah, my neighbor.
Yeah, I did too. And
What about the ground cover that has the yellow flowers? How do you get rid of that?
The winter creeper.
Because
Yeah.
Oh, that's still my.
Well,
yard.
yeah, but the one with the yellow flowers. Yeah.
I think.
I think it's all, like I said, it's forever project. So you pull it up one year and then you just gotta keep doing it. Hopefully each year you have less. Unless you just want to scoop out like a couple feet of soil.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. They are forever projects.
Poison doesn't even work on that.
Yeah.
You have to get all the little balls.
It's just brute force.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you suck so much?
And people think it's buttercup, and
Yeah.
they think it's
Yes.
wonderful.
And it is kind of pretty. Like when it's a big area, it's just it's
Yeah.
not great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like it is. Full disclosure, it is very pretty. But
The winter creeper, what do you do with that stuff?
that's just actually ripped up pretty easily. We have that. I mean, it might come back, but it doesn't require much.
Oh, but its vines get really big.
Yeah. And it depends on how long it's been growing.
I was gonna say, Alex just ripped it all up in his yard. So.
Oh, no.
My yard next.
Only part of it. No. It's so many layers to it. Very slow.
our goats,
They certainly eat honeysuckle at least they can grow. Yeah, those would probably eat whatever it is.
Say, I don't have goats, so I'm not entirely sure about that one. But
Some Corn Township has goats that go into certain of their farms.
they had them at Spring Grove a while back, but there was a little problem there when they all that. Yeah, somebody in the neighborhood let their people out.
Oh.
I heard it was coyote.
I thought it was a local.
Probably.
any other questions? Yes, yes, yes.
What happens if you just do that? I know that, like, the next I say is we take their water.
Let's not go that far.
But basically, what would happen if we just do that?
Well,
I'm not,
Oh, no, I would say at least
recommending that.
well, everyone in this group, it would just be like the wetland park would be like 3 species: lesser celandine, the pear, and honeysuckle. And then, a few animal species would use it. It would just, everything would be a lot more boring. Everything would be a lot more boring. With less diversity of insects and everything, the research shows that having like diverse green spaces, like people's gardens and everything, have higher yields of produce. You're supposed to have bigger diversity of different pollen and bacteria and fungus, so it just makes people healthier too. Like we're living in the ecosystem, so the healthier it is, the improved.
Let's go beyond that.
I don't know what
A few millennia later,
Like
you have.
eventually,
eventually,
Yeah.
eventually be in an ecosystem.
yeah.
That's a lot longer.
I mean, don't like, say you're from the,
No.
say eventually some. Does that happen in basin just taking over? Use up the resources and all die?
I mean, it can happen. It just normally leads to like another opportunistic invasive. It would be like replacing one with another at that point.
Probably not advocating as a.
Oh yeah, it can. It's normally, or it would be only for a certain amount of time. Like Australia does that a lot. Like they've had rabbits a lot. They've purposely introduced diseases, which worked for a temporary amount of time, and then things back.
Yeah, usually you would get a back and die off before you're invasive. If you get a die off of your other native animals before you get a die off of your native.
They can't use the pollen.
Yeah, it takes over the space for all the plants, and then the animals that rely on the plants don't necessarily, whatever you
other side.
Really not to worry about it.
Oh, my gosh.
We're done with that 100 years of the month.
We don't have to worry about floating because of all the.
Oh, God.
Well, it's
So,
fans.
any other questions?
Yes.
Any other questions? Oh, I got a question. Yep. We can't, we will, Highland, Park for Scout this past weekend. And I just want to say, it was lovely. We were gonna bring
Yeah, I was hoping you guys maybe use the grill cover. We found a picnic table and a grill.
That is the girl, and I looked at all that's left to do, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're taking on all of this stuff. There's so much to do, it was lovely. We appreciate it. Yay!
You were saying that the Lake Beach Code, the Mississippi River, and how it evolved.
Changed over time.
Well, they can't do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are we losing out on because they're not doing that?
Well, Mississippi is a great example. Just a lot of it is because the Army Corps of Engineers made lots of straight canals quite a while ago. That just led to the water going through much, much quicker, which meant a lot of the sediment that had been building the land up over thousands of years stopped being deposited anymore. So Louisiana, it's like the place where on Earth where land is being lost the fastest. So the football field every 30 minutes of land is lost. So it's leading to land disappearing down there, preventing the natural cycle.
The Oxbow Lake, the outer edge, the water is slower, very hot outward, the river shift. Because everything has been streamlined and people settled there and it was like, hey, Commerce, there's a river here. And naturally it was a move every couple hundred years, because just all that sediment deposited on the outside. Eventually physics says, well, water flows this way does. And then the river changes, it's all evolving. But New Orleans is there.
Yeah.
What's special about the individual island? There was like.
Oh yeah, so it's particular just Tom's been teaching us a lot. Like when you have that much, you want to be also mindful of how you're stacking it up. It makes it a lot harder to remove it later on when you ship it. So you just want to try to make a little match or big match there.
But also, like, if you look at that kind of stuff, you can leave the piles, and then that can be used by, like, small rodents or, like, habitat, or, like,
Yeah,
snakes.
so you can make it
Yeah.
purposely messy because wildlife will can use that too.
Yeah, I mean, your forests aren't, like, magically perfect, it's, like, fixed everywhere, so.
I used to go to that park in the past, and there were turtles and frogs and all this stuff, and you never see any of that.
Someone said they heard a bullfrog the
I
other day.
did. Yes, I did.
It's working. We heard a lot of, animals camping out last weekend, yeah, for sure. Frogs, yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, but how does that poison the water?
I am not familiar with all of Mount Healthy. Where is this park in relationship to?
There we are. So it's just west over here, on Forest Avenue. So if you take this road Compton right here, a couple blocks to Forest Avenue, just all the way down. It actually sits right next, it actually sits right next to, Ronald Reagan Highway. And Arlington Cemetery, yep. Yes, yep. So there's Arlington Cemetery here, there's the park, and then Ronald Reagan one, just on the south border of it. Yeah. Yes, you very much have to.
I want to make it all pretty again, but I don't want you to tell people about it. I can take my dog there with no leash.
I'm telling all my coworkers that this is our hard work. Anything else? Any other questions? Thank you
Thank you.
so
It was
much! Dr. Alex and Renee! I'm so sorry to hear the rest. We were like, oh, God. I'm not fancy. Okay, Doctor. Anyway, oh my God, thank you so much, everybody, for 1 year. 1 year. 1 year we've been coming here.
When's our cake? When's our cake?
I didn't make a cake. I'm gluten free. I think everybody wanted to eat owner and operator of the Crow Nose. It is a natural history and education consulting service right here in Cincinnati. She is a hoot. She's going to be telling us about some close encounters of the wild kind. You know, the ones that weren't so funny when they happened, but are funny later. And it should be a really good time. You're going to get to know a lot more about our native Ohio wildlife species and in a funny way. So join us on June 21st. And thank you all so much. Have a fantastic day.